Welcome to the Art of Living. Today we're going to talk about Camp Aloha, which is an overnight children's grief camp that we've held for many years, and it's generously funded by donations from Southern Motors. And I have Katie Nance with me today. Thank you, Katie. And Katie is here because she went to camp as a young child. And I honestly don't know your story, Katie, and I'd love to hear it.
I was actually a teenager. I was in high school, so a little bit older, but I still think that I gained a lot from the camp. I actually had a friend commit suicide when I was in high school, and there was a lot of, I guess, political unrest in the town where I was living, and there was a lot of blaming and pointing fingers, and as an already emotional and just trying to find your way as a teenager, I didn't know how to deal with that. And so I got to meet Betsy and Barbara, and they came to our school and talked to us, and we learned a little bit more about Camp Aloha. And I decided to go as a teenager, and it was just a really rewarding experience, so much that I wanted to come back and try to volunteer as much as possible. So
yeah, you actually ended up volunteering too as a camp counselor. Yes, so when you were a teenager and one of your friends committed suicide, did the school get in touch with Full Circle counselors, or do you remember that part?
I'm not entirely sure. My mother worked in the administrative side of Hospice Savannah back when they had the Chatham Parkway building, and I had met them previously just through interactions with my mom, but I just remember Betsy coming because my friend played softball with us, so Betsy came to the softball field and we shared memories and talked about them. So I'm not entirely sure if it was my school system that got in touch with them or because of my mom's kind of, I guess, connection. But
so what was it like as a young person to go to camp? Did you feel like it helped normalize what you were feeling, or did you, I don't know, what did it feel like?
I mean, normalize is a great word for it, and I hadn't thought about that before, because you're going through all these emotions, and when you're young, you don't know what's okay and what's not okay to feel, and you just can feel so alone, even though looking back, I know that there were a lot of people that felt the same way I did or have experienced the feelings and the roller coaster of emotions. But to go somewhere that's kind of just a space where you're free to do whatever you please and feel however you feel, it's okay to feel those feelings, was a big relief. It was very obviously scary at first because you think you're going and it's just going to be this weekend where everyone's crying all the time and you're upset, but that's really not how it is at all. You go through different groups where you're learning music techniques and you're getting to ask questions about, what happens when someone has this illness or when someone dies or things like that. And so the biggest rewarding part to me was knowing that I wasn't alone, and it was okay to feel however I felt, and it was okay to deal with it however I wanted to deal with it. But getting to talk to people and interact with other people who have similar situations or are feeling the same things I did was really rewarding for me.
Yeah, I always think it must be so helpful to know that you're not alone. And, if you have a mother die or a father die, that there are other kids there who are in the same situation. So you went back then as a camp counselor. How was that? Was that rewarding?
Oh, absolutely. It's always a struggle for me because it's usually during my finals week since I've been in college, but being able to share what happened in my experiences with these children, and especially the teenage ones, because they look at adults a lot of times thinking, well, you're an adult, you have it together, but it's an opportunity to show them that we are vulnerable too, and that we have the same feelings they do, and just because I'm not acting the same way you are doesn't mean that we're completely different in feeling grief or feeling lost or upset or mad, and helping them to go through that journey, because everyone's journey is different. Although we are experiencing loss and some of the same emotions, but everyone's journey of losing someone and moving forward with life is different. So we should explain that camp is for children ages 6
through 17. It sounds like you went as a teen and volunteered mostly with teens. You had an experience at the campfire on Saturday night. Was that with a teen or with a younger child?
It was with a younger child. I was mostly with the younger children at night in the cabins, probably because I was a little bit younger, so I could probably
you could do without sleep.
Staying up and getting up in the middle of the night and making sure that they're okay. But I did have the opportunity to work with the teens as well since I've been volunteering. But the experience that y'all are talking about, and always gets me a little emotional, was one of the first years that I'd come back to volunteer. I was with the younger kids, and we do a story about how we write letters to our loved ones, and I believe it's Betsy or Barbara would probably be better to explain the story, but it's like an old Indian proverb or saying that, you know, you write these letters and you put them in this basket and the words burn up to your loved ones, and, you know, whatever you believe, the words are going to get to them. And so there's a big ceremony, and it's very ritualistic, and it's really, really cool to experience. And everybody in the whole camp comes and sits around the fire, and they all place their letters into this basket, and then the basket's placed on the after they say a few things, the basket's placed on the fire, and you can, you know, the ashes go up. And I had a little boy, and I can't remember his name, but it still gets me choked up because he looked at me and he tugged on my shoulder and said, you know, Miss Katie, I can hear the words burning up to heaven. And it was reassuring to me that he knew that, you know, regardless of how he felt and how much he missed that person, that those words are getting to them, that they see that, and they're not here alone. And even though the loved one isn't with them right then at that moment, that I believe that there is some way that they do understand, this is how I feel, and I miss you, and, you know, things like that. So it was quite heart-wrenching, and one of the main reasons that I try to do as much as I can to give back. So.
Yeah, you've been a wonderful volunteer over the years. Thank you. And I really do think camp just helps these children so very much. And again, we want to thank Southern Auto and the community for their support that allows us to have the camp every year. And thank you, Katie, for sharing your story.
Thank you.